become a Kohen from the parents called Amram and Yocheved. And which son of Amram will become Kohen? Aaron. So you figure out understanding, most of the great-grandchildren of Kahat are not going to be Kohanim. But we seem, and raise a question, it seems to be disproportionate, that as far as Kahat is concerned, Yehuda plus Shimon come up in the lot system distributing 9 cities to Kohanim, Binyamin 4, sum total of 13. We're going to be asking, is it or not disproportionate? Then we saw that the remainder of the families of Kahat for Livium will be distributed from Ephraim, Dan, and half of Menachem. We said half of Menachem not on the east side, but rather on the west side, 4, 4, and 2, sum total of 10 cities of Livium. Number 3, again, I saw this great shur by Rabbi Mordechai Frankel from the Hesder Yeshiva in the Golan. My father-in-law, one of my in-laws is a Ram there, Rebbe there in the yeshiva, so I want to share the ideas that I learned from this Rebbe. Then we saw in the Goral, the lot system, Bnei Gershon, these tribes are going to be distributing cities of their lands. Half of Menashe, well, if it's not the west side, it'll have to be the east side. Yisachar, towards the north, towards the Jezreel Valley, and going up towards the Kinneret. Asher, which is going all the way in, already into Lebanon, the high upper Galilee, and Naphtali, all together 2, 4, 4, and 3, a sum total of how many cities? 13. Okay, well, the color code is not going to work out here. I was green anyway. Now I understand why it didn't work. 13 cities. Is that correct? 13 cities of Bnei Gershon. So it's interesting. Bnei Gershon has 13. Kahat has 23 cities. We're asking, why is it or is it not disproportionate? And now we go to the last child of Levi, which is Bnei Merari. And here in the Goral system, 4 cities Zvulun must designate, 4 by Reuven and 4 by Gad, a sum total of how many?
14.
How many for Merari? How many cities? No? 12. Very simple. Not hard. 12 cities. Sum total, gentlemen, please.
35.
Come on. Your math is better than that.
48.
48. Altogether, 48, as it states in Vayikra 25, 42 cities altogether, plus 6 that will be the cities of refuge. So these cities, without mentioning them, thank you, sir, without mentioning them, some of them are the names that we see in the Chumash to be cities of refuge. Like, for Gershon, for instance, the Golan. The Golan is a city of refuge. Okay? Kadesh in Naphtali, above the Kiryat Shemona region. That's a city of refuge. Or Ramot in the Giladi area of Gad. Or we see Betzer in the desert by Reuven on the other side of the Jordan. I'm not going to get into the names. Everything is listed here. What we have to understand is try to ask the answer to the first question, why is Levi forthcoming? Why are they last? In order to understand the question, or to better answer the question rather, we have to understand, gentlemen, what is the role of Shevet Levi? Some of you probably tell me, what's the role, Itai, of Shevet Levi? What is their major function, sir?
To educate the people.
That's not their first function that we see. The main function we see, or the first one?
Divine service in the Holy
The divine service in the Beit HaMikdash. Avodat HaMikdash. In other words, the Kohanim of the tribe of Levi, in the beginning, in their major work, in Chumash, what is Chumash Vayikra? What is it called in the Midrash? The nickname of the book of Leviticus, what is it called? Torat HaKohanim. Have you heard that name? The nickname of the Midrash in the book of Vayikra, the laws of the Kohanim, because they're dealing with the service of the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash. That's number one. That's in Vayikra and Bamidbar. However, when we get to Chumash Devarim, Deuteronomy, book number 5, we see an additional role. And that's what you said first before a few moments ago. The instruction of Torah. Lehorot, Moreh. Lehorot, Torah. As you remember, the blessing of Moshe at the end of the book of the Bible, the Chumash, quote, Yoru, Lehorot, Yoru mishpatecha liYakov. They will instruct the Torah and the laws of Jacob. Okay? So, they have basically 2 major roles. The tribe of Levi. Number 1, but both of them, of course, are part of a spiritual role of the Jewish people. And that is service in the temple, and number 2, Torah instruction. Is there something else or not? There's a famous parsha that deals with national entities of the Jewish people, national institutions of the Jewish people. In the book of Deuteronomy, there's a section called Shoftim, judges. There we learn about judges, prophets, Kohanim, and kings. Mishpat, Mem, Melech, Shin, Shoftim, Pei, I forgot, and Tet Talmidei Chacham. I forgot. There's an acronym there that we're dealing with all the national institutions. Not only do we see in that section that the tribe of Levi is what? Handing down the Torah, teaching the Torah and handing down the oral Torah, but rather we see in the section of the king, when he has to write a Sefer Torah for himself, he has to do it in front of who? Milifnei, I'm quoting, I don't have time to open it up, HaKohanim HaLeviim. What? The king of Israel, the national leadership of Israel, when he is writing the Torah, he has to be, on his side has to be Kohanim. What does that mean? For what reason? Apparently the answer is, they're going to be his instructors. The tribe of Levi are going to be the teachers, the instructors, the guiders of the king, so that he, the king, lead the nation in a proper way. According to this right now, we can understand that the role of the Kohanim Leviim, as it's stated there in the section of the king writing his Sefer Torah, is not only transmitting the Torah and dealing with education and instruction, but they have, and this is a novelty, a key role in the leadership of the Jewish people. Do you follow? How do they have a key role in the leadership of the Jewish people? Because they must be aside the Melech, the political leader of Israel. They have to be by his side to make sure that what he's doing is not politically correct, but as far as the value system of the Jewish people, the culture of the Jewish people, the Torah of the Jewish people, what he's doing is right. So they, the Kohanim Leviim from the tribe of Levi, have a similar role per se, like let's say the prophets. The prophets also, they are instructing or bringing novelties from God and so on and so forth. And for instance, when we meet up, do you remember the section called Egla Arufa? When we find a person slain and we have no idea who murdered the person, we go to the closest city, okay? And we take an Egla, a baby calf, and then what do we do to the baby calf, Itai? Cut off his neck, and there we see there too, there's a role by the Kohanim there in Pasuk in the section of Egla Arufa, the cutting off of the neck of the Egel. It says there, quote, V'nikshu b'nei Levi. You're going to collect, and they're going to approach the Leviim to the area of the slain, and some say that the taking off of the neck of that baby cow is like similar to atonement, even though it's not on top of an altar. And the purpose of the role of the Kohanim Leviim being there is they have a role of justice, of leadership. And that's what they're there. So, let's go and see the big story. You said in the beginning, 20 minutes ago, correctly, tribe of Levi does not have, what word am I looking for in the land of Israel? What word? Nachala. Can you repeat that, everyone? They don't have an inheritance, meaning a geographic region which is large enough for them not only to live, but to generate revenue, commercial welfare for themselves in order to have what we call in proper English, parnasa. You heard of that word? Parnasa, a livelihood. Can you repeat that word? Parnasa.
They do not have a tribal territory.
They do not again, I'm going to be specific. It's not a tribal territory. They have 48 cities, sir. But they don't have an area like everyone else in order to generate revenues. Because they don't need to generate revenues. Why not?
They get taxes.
They get quote unquote divine fringe benefits, which we're going to talk about one in a few minutes, and then I want to entertain your question.
They don't have real estate.
Again, they have 48 cities. You're misunderstanding. Maybe you walked in late, sir.
The revenue, what do you mean by revenue?
Let me explain again. They do not have large areas where they can start tilling, irrigating, and growing products in order to provide a livelihood for themselves. They have a place to live, to put their head down on top of a bed, to go into a school. Now, if they don't have a chelik v'nachala, if they don't have a portion in the land, and that's because we said that the Livium, the tribe of Levi, has a dual role. Number one, as you said correctly, Ariel said, they have a role. That the Shevet Levi is as a role working where? In the, come on, spit it out. In the Beit HaMikdash. And we said a second role is they have instruction, Torah inseminating, right? Now, if they have to be the Torah instructors, they can't be in one little place. You cannot have the tribe of Levi confined to one region. Why not? Where must they be? All over the place. Doing what? Being the Rabbis, the instructors, the teachers. They have to be everywhere and anywhere. So you cannot, do you understand the logic here? You cannot confine them to one particular region. And that's why we have here chapter 21, the division of cities of the Levium. Now,
Why do they get like 48 cities?
So this is divine.
Really like spread out.
48, what? This is not spread out. Maybe it's before you. This is all spread. This is all across the country.
But it doesn't feel like they live among the Israelim.
So I'll explain.
They have their own city.
So we didn't get to see out the maps. No, they don't. We'll have to get the
Other
maps.
people can go to the cities too.
Very good, very good. Now we're saying clearly here. Every Levi doesn't have a piece of land. According to their families, they're living all across the country. Bnei Kahat are divided into Kohanim and Levium, 23 cities. Bnei Gershon are living in 13 cities across the country. Bnei Merari are living in 12 cities across the country. We just said that in order for them to be ready and able to deal with Torah instruction, they have to be scattered across the land in order to be the teachers. Now, you might have thought that seems to be a little disproportionate. Why? Every tribe is basically designating how many cities of his land? Four. And you might question which tribes is it not fair? Which ones? Yehuda. But the answer is, it's Yehuda plus Shimon. Yehuda plus Shimon, which is southern Israel, south of Yerushalayim, going down to the Negev, Beersheba, the Gaza Strip, and so on and so forth. There we're talking about 9 cities, so it's proportionate. It's not. It's like every tribe is basically giving up 4 cities of their land. Okay. Therefore, it seems to be a division, which is divine division, which is number 1 is scattered, and number 2 seems to be balanced for all the Levium. Now, above and beyond the fact that they're scattered, we have to understand each tribe through here is asked, come on, give up. Give up some of your land. Give up some of your territory. Every tribe is asked, and they have to do it, to designate, if we're using a vulgar way, to cough up area so that the Livium can live there. When a tribe does that, that's an important significance. Okay? I want to introduce you to the tribe of Reuven. Reuven, how do you feel? Well, you know what? I think it's very important for us, the tribe of Reuven, that we have Livium living by us, and therefore we're happily giving 4 cities, 4 territories in our national region for them. You know why? Because we need the Livium. And the interview is, well, why do you need the Livium? I'll tell you why we need the Livium. We want centers of Torah in our city. We want yeshivot in our city. We want Beit Din. We want scholars. I'm looking for teachers for our children. I want a staff of rabbinical scholars, of Talmidei Chachamim. I want Avreichim. We want Torah, power, Torah, values in our city. So we're beginning to understand now that if each and every tribe is being asked to issue land, to designate cities, this is a very important statement. They're saying, we, the tribes of Israel, want you, the Livium. And this will really answer the question that we opened up with the shur with as we're coming towards the finale of our shur. We asked, why, here in the book of Yehoshua, the book of prophecy, do we find that the allocation of cities of the Livium comes last? After the 12 tribes get what they get, after the cities of refuge to bring in those that murdered and not wantingly, why are they in the end? Why are they coming all the way at the end of the order of the nachalot of all the tribes? The answer, according to this, should be a simple answer. After we said that you, Reuven, and you, Shimon, and you, Judah, and you received your lands in all the earlier chapters, now, each and every one of you, are you willing to host? Are you willing to take in, like Ariel said correctly, they're going to be living amongst you, but these are the lands that you're going to be giving. Are you willing to host them? Are you willing to receive Leviim and they should live by you? That's what has to be first the order. The allocation of the land to the 12 tribes first, and now you're asked to host, to give, to provide lands from your Nachalah, your divine territory that you got from God through the lot system. Because if you're going to be hosting them, now we can understand it's going to obligate the Levium. They're doing kindness to you. They're giving you land. They're giving you places to live. Now they should pay the bill. How are they going to pay the bill? How are the Levium going to pay the bill? They're going to be teaching Torah. They're going to be learning. Do you understand the model that the Torah is built, the Tanakh is building up here? The purpose and the role of the Levium is a central spiritual role. And therefore they have to be scattered all over the country in all the cities. 42 plus 6, 48 cities, the other 6 of the cities of refuge specifically. So we see that you want them to live by you? Fine. Now, who's coming forward? You have a yeshiva there, you have a kollel there, you have avrichim married instructors, and you have an atmosphere of great. It's a community need. And now, the Levium are coming forward. We want them to come forward now. That's why they come forward and they ask, we want it. We're ready. In other words, maybe it could be the answer why they're coming forth and asking for their portion. They're saying, we're ready and able to do our national function. Can we now have our lands, please? We're ready to go out. We're ready to be shlichim. Today there's ever since the unfortunate evicting of Jews from Gush Katif and parts of Judea and Samaria, where we see that good parts of our base of our nation is not with us. Ever since then, there's been a new project developed by the national religious community called the Garinim Toranim, these Torah nucleus groups, where instead of living in the ghetto of Kiryat Moshe or Beit El or Gush Etzion, they're leaving the ghetto, so to speak, and they're moving into Rishon LeZion and in Tel Aviv and Herzliya and Caesarea and all these cities. Okay? Yesterday, there was a reigning of a new rabbi in Ramallah, someone that studied in the Shomron and Elon Moreh for like 20 years or so. And he was reigned now the rabbi of 200 families living in Ramallah. Ramallah is next to Lod, next to the airport. Again, there's about 150 to 200 families of this national work of people, guys that studied in the Rav Kook Yeshivot and so on and so forth. Young families, dynamic people, they're going out to give. They're going out to set up a system, be school teachers, set up bar mitzvah programs, work with kids, and so on and so forth. That is the model here of the Tanakh. And basically we're saying, and this is how I want to end the shur, it's a mutual system. The tribes are giving to the Levium, yes or no? They're providing them lands. And now the Levium are paying back. But it's specifically the Levium. And this is why I want to end this. Kahat, the Kohanim, they're going to be living in the closest area to Yerushalayim. Yehuda, south of Yerushalayim, towards the Negev Shimon. Binyamin is very close to Yerushalayim. So the system of where they're living is dependent upon their jobs. This tribe of Kahat was the holiest of all three. They're going to be Kohanim, and therefore they should be living in the vicinity of Yerushalayim, and that's how we see it. So too the Leviim of Kahat, Ephraim, Dan, and Menashe, are also generally close to Yerushalayim. Gershon, according to their work inside in the Midbar for 40 years, we're going to be learning the book of Bamidbar, God willing. For instance, Kahat transported the most holy of all the vessels in the Midbar. Thereafter, Merari. Gershon. Gershon was carrying the boards, the locks, the pillars. It's like this, the skin of the body. That's Gershon. No, that's Merari. That's like the skin of the bodies, the bones of the bodies. Gershon, on a higher level, was carrying the tent itself, the curtains, like the flesh covering the inner organs, protecting them. We see the roles of these children of Levi in the Midbar. We see different, we can see three circles here. The most closest to Yerushalayim, the most closest to the holiness, the one a little further away, and the ones that are even more further away. That's more or less capping it up. We're seeing here a mutual system of a nation that has to be united, that has to have give and take. You're right for the one that said the ones that are most prestigious are the Kohanim, because they have the most gifts. You're about the one that said, who's talking about the gift of taxes? You were Hirsch. There are 24 matanot kuhuna. Many of them we learn in the book of Bamidbar after the rebellion of Korach. 24 different taxes that you give to the Kohanim. The Kohanim had many avenues of livelihood by collecting any one of these taxes from any friends. That's the Kohanim. They're more prestigious, they're in a higher level of status, higher honor, and they're living closer to Yerushalayim. Whereas the Levium, they don't have 24 gifts. Their source of livelihood is more at stake, of instruction, of teaching, and so on and so forth. And therefore, when the Torah talked about that you worrying for the poor on the holidays, and you shall provide for your son and your daughter and be happy with them, do you know what it mentions? And also provide for the Leviim, the instructors, the Torah instructors, because their sources of livelihood are less. May we soon in our days also get back to this system of living together and supporting the instructors of Torah. Amen. Ken Yiratzon. Have a great day today, gentlemen. Shalom, shalom.